So this is probably where, without just kind of skimming it, we would offer specifically agrees to construct and install the apartment project public improvements, which to me would be public improvements would be the road.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Hey, Ty, I was wrong. They did hang around. The owners did hang around. They're at the office. Oh, goodness. I was not watching the clock. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the North Platte City Council meeting here on Tuesday, March 17th, 2026 at 5:30 p.m. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. I'm sorry that I did not bring enough cupcakes for everyone, but there are cupcakes over there in the corner. Would appreciate if you would all take one when you leave so I don't have to take them home. May give them to whoever's outside the building or whatever you'd like to do, but eating them might be your best preference. Okay, calling the meeting officially to order. We have an invocation by Pastor John Stone from the North Platte Berean Church, please.
Thank you so very much for your kindness to us. Thank you. Father, we are very grateful for your kindness to us. Thank you for these of your servants who have served our city. Lord, I'm praying that you give them wisdom tonight as they tackle things, Lord, whether they're big things and controversial or just things that are more kind of plowing through. Would you give them a unity and a care for one another? Lord, will you do this for the good of North Platte? And Lord, we ask that this would be done in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor Stone. Thank you, everyone. Angie, the roll call, please.
Nisley,
Here.
Nye,
Here.
Bull,
Here.
Lucas,
Here.
Garrett, Sanders,
Here.
Reeker,
Here.
McNew.
Here. Thank you. Current copy of the Open Meetings Act of the State of Nebraska is posted on the wall at the back of the council chambers. Meeting procedure: the public may address specific agenda items at the pleasure of the mayor. If recognized by the mayor, please identify yourself by stating your name and your address. Please address the council through the mayor and limit your remarks. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or the mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. Do not have any awards, accolades, or presentations tonight. Moving on to the consent agenda. All matters under the consent agenda are considered by the city council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any city council member may, however, remove an item from consent by request. Number 1A, approve the minutes of March 3, 2026. B, send the application of Caribbean Cravings LLC for a Class AB liquor license, beer on and off sale, for their location at 1320 South Cottonwood Street, Suite 2, to the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission with no recommendation. C, send the application of Cartwright's Barbecue LLC for an addition to liquor license area located at 502 Easy Street to the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission. D, authorize mayor to execute health and accident contracts for the city's self-insuring health and accident plan beginning April 1, 2026. E, approve the mayor's appointment of Travis Covey to the Citizens Advisory Review Committee. And F, approve the application by DEAM LLC, DBA Axes and Aces, for a special designated license on April 11th, 2026 from 8 a.m. to 12:30 a.m. and April 12th, 2026 from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the D&N Event Center, 501 East Walker Road for a sporting tournament.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Vols. Calling the question on the consent agenda, please. Consent agenda is passed. Thank you, everyone. Moving on to the regular agenda. Number 2, authorize changing the name of the City of North Platte Park located at A Street and Dewey Street from Pioneer Park to Governor's Park.
Mr. Mayor, I move to change the name of the city of North Platte Park located at A Street and Dewey Street from Pioneer Park to Governor's Park.
Wow, okay. I'm gonna give that to Mr. Flanders. Okay, motion by Lucas, second by Flanders. Thank you, everyone. Motion makes it fairly obvious, but Stephen Kay is here to present his idea regarding this park, and since this is,
Well, good evening. My name is Stephen Kay, and I live at 1111 Custer Court here in North Platte. I've been a resident of North Platte since March 1954. Thank you for this opportunity to give a report on the Governor's Park project. It is important to have a historical marker in North Platte commemorating Governors Keith Neville, Roy Cochran, and Robert Crosby. All three men grew up in Lincoln County, left to attend college, and came back and returned home to start their careers. Their legacies need to be remembered. They are role models for today's youth. When reviewing the accomplishments of these men, the expression "the sky is the limit" comes to mind. There are no restrictions on what you can accomplish. Dream big and pursue your goals with vigor. Anything is possible wherever you live if you set your goals and are committed. The Nebraska State Historical Society has approved the application for Nebraska Historical Marker honoring the three Nebraska governors from Lincoln County. The proposed text has been approved. Funds have been raised to pay the total cost of the historical marker. It will be ordered soon. Delivery is expected in 6 to 8 months from the date of order. Condon Signs provided a proposal for a Governor's Park sign. The design is similar to the Canteen District sign over Dewey Street, and the cost of the Governor's Park sign is $8,066. Mid-Nebraska Community Foundation recently awarded a grant to the city of North Platte for this project in the amount of $4,500. The remaining balance due for the Governor's Park sign is $3,566. The plan is to place the historical marker and Governor's Park sign in the city park adjacent to the S-curve on Dewey Street, the entrance to the Canteen District. This park is currently named Pioneer Park. I respectfully request the North Platte City Council to approve changing the name of the current Pioneer Park to Governor's Park, placing the historical marker and Governor's Park sign in Governor's Park, and utilizing city park improvement funds to pay the remaining balance due for the Governor's Park sign. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mr. Kay, would you tell us exactly where Governor's Park would be? Because we've had a few people ask where that physically
I'm
is.
sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this better? Sorry. Could you tell us exactly where Governor's Park would be? We've had a few people ask.
It would be that S-curve on Dewey Street where the road curves over.
Yeah,
to
would you
Jeffers and Dewey.
move over in front of the microphone, please?
Oh,
Sorry.
It would be on, it would be that park that is currently on the S-curve on Dewey Street where you have that kind of Y-S curve where it goes straight on to Dewey and then goes over to the left to Jeffers Street.
Okay.
And this sign is right near that Canteen District sign, and this sign that Condon's has designed will match that Canteen District sign.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
that's where the intended location of those two signs will be.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Pete?
Mr.
Yes.
K, yep. Is that the only sign that would go there, or were you going to do any plaques or anything like
Well,
that?
that's something in the future. I gave the city administrator the text for that sign, and the sign is really focused on youth, and it's not a biographical sign, basically. It's kind of a message sign, and it's got a quote even on there from Abraham Lincoln. And I think in the future, it might be nice to have some further development of that, but to get it started, I thought it'd be good to have the Governor's Park sign and then have this marker that kind of focuses on the youth, because these men really truly had remarkable careers and they really are examples to our youth here in Lincoln County. But I think in the future, some things could be added to this park, but it's a start. And because I think this all kind of came about when that McCabe bar opened, because Roy Cochran had his first office as Lincoln County surveyor in the second floor of that building. And it just came to my mind that there wasn't anything in North Platte that honored these three mayors or governors. And I would imagine that if you went down the street and asked people, if we had any governors from North Platte, they probably, or Lincoln County, they probably wouldn't know. So I thought it was a good thing for the community, and it's something that we can really be proud of. So, and it's something that can be added to, I think, in the future.
The reason I ask that is I drove the S-turn. It's that area, it's a median basically. And it's really not conducive, in my opinion, to have a lot of spectators or bystanders standing there. You know, and that's my primary concern
I don't see
with
that
it.
happening there, just from the standpoint that it is a small area, and there's not really a lot of things you can use it for. There, I don't think there'll probably ever be any park benches there. There won't be any picnic tables. I think it's just a park where people can go and view those markers. And it's kind of nice where it's at, because it's actually the entranceway into downtown. And I think that this will add to the ambiance of the Canteen District of having this governor's park there. And it's something that when people drive into town that aren't from North Platte or from out of state, they'll see that we had 3 leaders of the state that came from here. And I think really it's a great location for it. I don't think it's designed to be a park where people, congregate there and have picnics and things like that. It's more of a memorial type park, I look at it as. And I think it's important to the city. There's other places you could put it, but in a way that I think is the best spot, because everybody that comes into North Platte downtown will see that. And McCook for years has been talking about their 3 governors, and there's only one of the 3 that is actually from McCook. So I think we have 3 that actually grew up here and lived here and started their careers here. So I really think it's good to have this for North Platte, and I think that's a good location. I thought about other locations, but it'd get lost in the shuffle, and I just think this kind of highlights it right to the entrance of downtown. So that's my thought.
Other questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Hi.
these might be more questions for Lane or Brent. Is there anything in the planned road work or utilities that would create any issues with the location of that sign marker?
As far as I know, with the reconstruction that's going to happen on Dewey in the next 2 years, there may be a little change to that, the curb line, but it doesn't change the park itself as far as the area. And I think we were thinking the historical marker sign would probably go more towards the north where those parking spaces are. So I don't know if Brent has anything to add to that, or Lyle for the park either.
So we don't have any concerns that road work will bother these. Are those parking spots public parking spots versus Caldwell Banker spots?
I believe there's street parking spots on the north side of the park, the south side of that.
That's public
street.
parking?
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Nick?
Did we have anything in the budget for this, or it just comes out of the general fund?
I was just, I'm assuming we would take it out of the contingency fund, out of the general fund.
Okay.
Be a small amount.
Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Hi, Steve.
Hi.
I had one of my constituents sent me an email and was questioning why maybe we shouldn't be looking at, and a guy I'd never heard of before, Colonel Miltonberger.
Well, I know there was a desire, I think, to put a Miltonberger monument there, but this is, for the governors. And I think, we could have a Milton. I've thought about him. I think there probably should be something here. But this particular area, I think if you put this in another park, it would just get lost in the shuffle. I think it's nice to have these governors right as you come into town. And I think there's other places where something for Miltonberger could be placed. And I think he really does deserve something in our community. I got another historical marker placed in town for Hiram Hisanori Kano. And I think there's I think Miltonberger is deserving of one of these same type of markers. It probably should be done. But and I've thought a lot about that. We've got so much history here, but Miltonberger is someone that should be recognized. But right now, thought it was nice to have have the governors. And like I said, part of it is for our children. And we have a lot of new people coming to town. We have immigrants. And I think they ought to realize that someone from a town the size of North Platte, can become governor of the state, can do a lot of things. And that's kind of what I want the message to be. This is not just a biographical plaque, but it's like I said, it's a message for young people. And I think they need that today. And I think it's important that we have role models, which these three men are. I'm sure Jim remembers Governor Crosby's dad. Maynard practiced law here, and these men were really distinguished. But Milton Berger, I think he deserves something. You're right. And Memorial Park would probably be a good place to put something in honor of him.
From my own personal perspective, I guess, when I think about people starting from nothing basically and ending up in a position somewhere, I think the Pioneers is probably more suited to our area, because these people came across the plains and
Right.
a lot of them died from starvation, Indian attacks, fires, froze to death, starvation, all of these things that they encountered in this several thousand-mile trek. Different kinds of deaths for their own children and spouses, of course.
Can I make a comment about that? You're very right about that, but I want to point out something about Roy Cochran. Roy Cochran moved here with his dad when he was 6 years old. His mother died. He basically had nothing. He was in the first graduating class of the Brady High School. In fact, the Brady School Foundation has given a contribution to this, which is really great. But he really had nothing, and there was a lawyer that taught school in Brady who had this idea that Roy would go to law school and come back and practice with him in Sydney. And Roy actually went to Lincoln and started out to study to become a lawyer, but he didn't think he was a good speaker, which his wife later on said that was kind of humorous because he gave speeches all the time as governor. But the thing about him is that he put himself to school washing dishes. And his mother also had her boarding house down there. She lived in North Platte. His wife was the Lincoln County school superintendent, but he washed dishes and put himself through school with that type of job. And he was an amazing man. He was a veteran, and he was after he was governor, he was appointed commandant of one of the Fort Leonard Wood, and from World War II, and he was in World War I. But he kind of has that pioneer spirit. He's an example of that. And you're right. Now, I don't want to take anything away from Pioneer Park, but I do think it's important for North Platte to recognize these governors. And there's a lot of other things we can do in the community to recognize some of these other things, which I do think they need to be recognized. But I thought that was kind of a good spot for it. And I thought it was a good spot from the standpoint that it wouldn't get overlooked. If you put it in a different park, and I think it's important that people see that. I think it's good for our community. But we had, leaders that served on the state level. Governor Crosby was one of the youngest speakers of the legislature. And of course, Keith Neville did so much for this community. He really brought the arts to North Platte and did so much. And I know the families I actually, have dealt with the families about this, the Cochran family and the Neville family, and they are very pleased that this is being done. And they think, this is a good project, and they're very supportive of it being at that location. So in closing, it's up to you, but I just think it'd be a nice thing to do.
Go ahead, Ed.
Thank you. I guess where I was going with that, Steve, is for whatever reason today, it appears to me that our students in the public schools specifically, and maybe in the private schools too, I don't know, I think they probably use a lot of common textbooks, but the history of our country has been lost. It's not being taught to our youth. At best, they may have a historical recollection, maybe World War II. And I think it's important that we're reminded of how this country was founded. It was founded by people that were tough. They didn't come to the government and ask for a handout because there was no government to ask for a handout. They worked hard. They died in the traces trying to eke out a living. And I think it's important that that be remembered. Whether this is the best place for that, I don't know. Not to take anything away from your governors or to detract from them. But I think Pioneers Park, from my perspective, I think we'd serve our memory better if we began to expand Pioneers Park and with some of the memories of the ancient part of, well, I wouldn't say ancient, I guess. That's probably a little too old. But the older part of our history that definitely has not been carried on to our youth.
Well,
Okay,
No,
other
I
question
just-
or comments?
I just think that, that park isn't really big. And I think that's a great idea, and I think that needs to be expanded. I think you're right. I think the children don't know a lot about the history, and I think that was one of my reasons for doing this. And I think that's something that could be covered in another park, but I agree with you totally. That's one of the purposes of why I'm doing this, not just to talk about politicians. These men weren't, they worked hard to get where they were, and I just think this would be a nice project. So I won't go on any further. It's St. Patrick's Day, so, but thanks so much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Kay.
you.
Thank you. Just FYI, Ed, we'll likely be creating 2 new parks in the next year. And if we decide to rename this one, I think we should name one of those Pioneers Park. They will be considerably larger, so we could do more with that.
I really like that idea, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
I don't know, now that we're talking about this early, that gives us some time to think about it, maybe even solicit some comments from the public on maybe how we could put some types of signage or memorabilia of the foundation of our even our community and our state.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Nick?
Just one last thing, thank you. I wasn't too apt to spend the money on a sign like this in the beginning, but I feel like, if we move forward and continue to work on Parks and Recreation, and we're going to be consistent across the board on spending money on a lot of new parks that, like you mentioned previously, I think that's a great idea to give the kids a good community, and I think parks moving forward need to be a priority.
Other questions or comments? Ty?
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to be honest, until about a half hour ago, I didn't know that park was called Pioneer Park. Me too. And I'd never seen the sign before, and I've lived here most of my life. So I'm a little embarrassed by that as a council member. So this is good discussion. I guess I appreciate the initiative and the idea. I agree with you, Ed. I would also, as a counter argument on that, though, with Nebraska Days and Scouts Restaurant and all that, we do have we're probably one of the great places in this country, Fort Cody even, to commemorate that. And I think this would be a nice refreshing of that little area that I didn't even know was Pioneer Park. And hopefully we can use this as maybe an opportunity to recognize all of those things that are important. But what I really like is that we've had private individuals that have gone out, raised money, and crossed the T's and dotted the I's, and have come up with a good idea, and then have coordinated it back with what the refreshing of our downtown. And so at first I felt the same way as you, Nick, that gosh, we don't need to spend any more money. But I think this is a good proposition for the city, the way with the contribution that's been asked. So I'm going to be in favor of it.
Okay, let's settle. Let's calling the question on item number 2. Item number 2 is passed. Moving on to item number 3. Authorize using $3,566 from the city contingency fund for the new sign for Governor's Park.
Mr. Mayor, I move to authorize $3,566 from the city contingency fund for the new sign for Governor's Park.
Second.
Motion by Lucas, second by Nisley. Any discussion on item number 3? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 3, please. Item number 3 is passed. Thank you, Mr. Kay. We appreciate your efforts. Okay, moving on to item number 4. Third reading and action to adopt ordinance number 4230, annexing parcel ID number 0054535.00, described as Lot 13, Cody Land and Cattle, and part of Tract E, Lincoln County, Nebraska, into the corporate limits of the city of North Platte, Nebraska, consisting of approximately 2 acres. Lane, the ordinance, please.
Ordinance number 4230, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, to include within the corporate limits of the city of North Platte certain lands described as Lot 13, Cody Land and Cattle, and part of Tract E, Lincoln County, Nebraska, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 4230, annexing parcel ID number 0054535.00, described as Lot 13, Cody Land and Cattle, and part of Tract E, Lincoln County, Nebraska, into the corporate limits of the city of North Platte, Nebraska, consisting of approximately 2 acres in final reading.
Second.
Motion by Platte, second by Reeker. Do we have any discussion on item number 4? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 4, please. Item number 4 is passed. Item number 5, accept bids and award contract for paving district number 840 and paving district number 841 to Level LLC of North Platte in the amount of $2,799,340.30 and authorize the mayor to sign the contract.
Mr. Mayor, I move to accept the bids and award the contract for paving district number 840 and paving district number 841 to Level LLC of North Platte in the amount of $2,799,340.30 and authorize the mayor to sign the contract.
Second.
Is that you, Rod?
Yeah.
Motion by Vols, second by Dye for item number 5. Council, I just passed out, just as a reminder, the map for East Francis Street that we've all looked at now, I think, many times. What we're talking about here with item number 5 is the area identified as C and D like David. So basically the eastern half of East Francis Street. It's not exactly half, but it's close to half. Okay, questions or comments? Brent, do you have anything to add? Apparently so.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. We had 3 bidders on this project and they were under estimate. Our estimate was around 3.2 million and the low estimate was, or the low bid was 2.8, and with Level, who's a North Platte company, and he's here in the audience, Mr. Watson's here as well. And so he's done work on Golden Road, and he's also done work in the industrial park, and last year up on the north side of town, 15th Street area. So he's had extensive work as Level in our community doing that work, and so we were pleased with the prices we got back on the project.
Questions or comments? Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess this part that we're going to be paying for, was that included in the redevelopment contract for the developers?
So section C is, section D is the one that the state grant is paying for.
But having said that, were both of these sections, districts rather, in the developer's redevelopment contract? Was that part of his agreement to pay these?
The initial contract, yes.
So if we're gonna relieve him of a $1.8 million because of a grant, District 841, I'm not sure how that washes because he agreed to do it and now we're gonna pay for it through a grant. Seems like there needs to be some remuneration back to the city or something to make that square. And then the District 840, if that was part of his redevelopment contract as well, if I'm understanding this correctly, now the city's assuming responsibility to pay this and then it will be paid back as the lots are sold.
No, it's a district. So right now, the arrangement is that let me make sure I get my lots correct here because we've gone through these. So. Yes, so like any other paving district, well, I'll let Brett answer. He's the expert on paving districts. So
Well, what we'll do is when we get to the end where we'll assign or assess the council will sit as the Board of Equalization with the presentation of the costs, and then it'll be assigned to the property. And the way that this was set up was the property to the south of Francis will be what will be assigned the cost for section C. So that will go from Devco to Bicentennial. South of Francis is what I think we discussed at the last meeting that we're going to assess south. So the property that's going to be sold to the Midwest Land Development is going to be assigned the cost for that Francis part. Did that answer your question or explain that?
So in essence, it sounds like Midwest Land Development is paying to put a street on somebody else's property because it hasn't changed hands yet. Is that correct?
It'd be on city property
It's on city property.
right now, correct?
give it a second.
So,
Ed, do you need a little refresher on what we talked about on December 16th? Is
well,
that
I
what
think
you're?
maybe I do, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Because I was under the impression that Midwest Land Development was gonna pay all of these paving costs up for, as soon as it was completed. And now I'm hearing something what I perceive to be different.
Go ahead.
Well, just first in regards to that section C for paving district 840, Midwest Land Development does have a purchase agreement to purchase that property from the city. But at the time that we set up the arrangements, we set it up so that they would buy it in increments rather than purchasing that whole big section of land all at one time. And so one of the things that we're working on is a subdivision that would carve out some of the lots that would be right along Francis Street so that we can incrementally sell those to Midwest Land so that they will be purchasing those. And then be able to purchase more of the land as they move through their project. So I'm forgetting your specific question, Councilman Reeker, but I think you had expressed concern that the city was just going to be paying for that stretch of section C. But all of those, while the city might bear the expense up front, all of those expenses are going to be passed along through to the redeveloper as part of the paving district. So the redeveloper will be paying those expenses to the city. Generally what we've done too, and this maybe isn't part of your question, but generally what we've done too when it comes to assessing the costs, like Brent was talking about, we've added on an extra percentage to the interest rate in order to cover some of our carrying costs. So, so that we wouldn't be out of pocket anything as a city. And if you had other questions, I forget what they were, but I'm happy to try to answer them.
I don't remember either, Bill.
Maybe I
Okay,
did my
we're
job
moving
right.
on. Okay. Go ahead.
Well, my question after your comments, and that does offer some clarification. How soon do you anticipate that land to be sold?
Well, we have it set up as, it's been a while since I've looked at the purchase agreement, so I don't recall exactly, but it's set up to to be able to sell it to Midwest Land as they move through their redevelopment plan. And so my recollection was that it's set up, those increments are set up to correspond with their redevelopment plan. And so I was just looking at that, the contract in their phases. I think in Austin's here too. I don't know that we need to call him up, but the redevelopment contract calls for 5 different phases. And so, so my recollection of the purchase agreement was that each phase included purchase of more land. And right now they're still in phase 1 of the redevelopment project. And, so what we've basically been working on is trying to get the road in so that we can have this subdivision done that I mentioned, so that we can get the first part of their purchase done through that purchase agreement. And then phase 2 would include another purchase of some land, and then phase 3 and so on. So that's when I say it's incremental, so that as they move through their redevelopment plan, they incrementally purchase more of that city-owned land.
So you're saying that this is covered under the redevelopment authority, or redevelopment contract?
It is.
It is. When you say this is covered, I'm just trying to make sure that I understand what
Well,
you mean by
including the
this.
paving, that would go with the property.
Correct. The paving also is covered as part of the redevelopment contract, and so it's laid out as in phases. And so part of what's happening here with these paving districts, you have to keep in mind, is that this is happening much sooner than it would if we just followed the redevelopment contract.
Right, so did we come to an agreement on the price for the sale of the property?
Yes, that's all covered in the purchase agreement, but again, it's for each incremental purchase.
Right. So having said that, then, are we gonna add the cost of the street onto the purchase price of the property?
No, that's what the district does.
Correct. That's what the district does.
But the purchaser will pay the district the cost of the street.
Are you talking about the initial transaction? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're asking?
I guess what I'm trying to say, I guess, Mr. Mayor, is I want to make sure that the developer pays for that street.
Yes, they will have to. That's been, Austin, that's been the arrangement the whole time, correct? Come up to the microphone and say it, please.
Yeah, Mr. Reeker, it's a great question. So we're going to cover 100% of the expense. I believe city administration costs for getting the district set up. We'll incur all of it. I don't want to speak for the mayor. I think the concept in doing the districts was getting Francis Street functional sooner, considering the council was gracious and getting the previous ordinance passed. What we talked to the city about was, why don't we get this ahead of schedule so the roadway can become functional at the end of this year. So we're ahead of schedule. We'll cover 100% of the cost, and that's the plan.
So Ed, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I was just going to say what often I think gets forgotten, since we've rehashed this so many times, is that what changed this whole Austin's initial plan and schedule was the fact that the city, honestly, it's my fault and Kevin who got the grant, but is that we applied for and got that grant. That's really what precipitated the change in schedule. If we hadn't gotten that grant as an opportunity to pay for the street, we probably wouldn't even be having this discussion until 2029 or something like that. So
Thank you for that elucidation there, Mr. Mayor. So having said that, then, even though we got a grant, is Midwest Land Development going to pay for the street?
no, the grant's going to pay for the street.
So they.
Well, in part, excuse me, in section D, yes.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, I didn't clarify.
Yeah.
So from my understanding then, the $1.8 million that is paid for by the grant is going to allow Midwest Land Development to have an additional $1.8 million of their bond to use for other developments on the site.
If they're able to come up with the appropriate expenses, but yes.
So the only advantage, well, it is a big advantage. I'm not trying to minimize that. But we're getting this section D paved considerably sooner by maybe 4 or 5 years than what we had anticipated. I'm not exactly sure that there shouldn't be some cost to the developer for that street, because he had planned on doing that, from what I understand, in the redevelopment contract.
Austin.
Yeah, so
Kevin, hold on just a second. Kevin, remind me the grant is it 80-20 or 75?
25, they owe us 531,000.
Okay. So,
yeah, so if I can piggyback off of what the mayor said, for the TIF bonds to be certified, we have to come in with eligible expenses, show that we paid for those. So even though the grant is going to offset the cost we otherwise would have utilized for that road, we have to still have eligible expenses. So if we're able to get the project, and we don't have the eligible expenses on infrastructure to certify that additional amount, then that TIF, in essence, to my understanding, is relieved, and that's not going to be part of the repayment schedule.
So you've essentially captured about, well, if you gotta pay $500,000?
yeah, we're at 25% of the cost.
So you've essentially captured about $1.3 million of extra funding because of the grant, is that correct?
The total TIF amount is based upon a maximum amount of eligible expenses we can utilize to certify the bonds. So it's, if I can be frank, it's kind of a fictitious number, right? We have to have the cost. We're anticipating having more expenses on infrastructure than what the TIF bond was originally. So it's an assumption, a crystal ball that's 6, 7, 8 years away, and we just don't know where costs are going to be at that point, if we're going to need to utilize that or not utilize it.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Ty?
just to add some clarity, with the obligate, so nothing is altered the redevelopment agreement where they have the obligation to pay the cost of the streets minus the grant. Is that correct? Okay. And in this case, even though they're paying for it, do we still use the normal process? It looked like we sure did with bidding. Is this bonded just like we would normally under the city process? So everything stays under the city process. And one thing that was important and from that prior discussion too was that the city also was able to maintain kind of the control of the construction, which for the long term for backbone infrastructure we saw as positive. So we don't want to forget about that important aspect as when that decision was made on the district use of the district.
Pete?
And one other thing to keep in mind, Section D of this plan, the developer doesn't have plans to go out that far, okay? We threw that in there to ascertain that we could get from Bicentennial to Newberry. That was an us thing. We're like, we don't want this road dead ending. How are we going to get from here to there? And the developer was like, I'll absorb the cost, just to get this project going. Because at the time, I remember we were in desperate need of housing, and we thought that this project was looking really good. So when Kevin came in, that's what's going to allow this to get completed out to Newberry. So that was an us ask by the developer. He was gracious enough to try and get these costs up. And I know that number was going to be extremely tight for any type of TIF money coming in. So they don't own anything out in Section D. They're going to pay, 100% of the cost of C, where they only have 50% of the frontage. And we'll talk about B on the next agenda item. So.
Other questions?
On the last conversation that we had when we were approving these, was there going to be an amended redevelopment contract of stipulations and contingencies to assure that the developer was going to pay the assessments and they weren't going to get passed on to the property or future property owners?
Yeah. Have you gotten that from Mr. Bacon?
I haven't got, Mike Bacon is working on that amendment, and so I talked to him this afternoon, and I didn't have a draft in my hand, but he's drafting that amendment.
Okay. But as of right now, do we still own all that property in C?
Yes. As of today, yes.
Okay.
To the
So-
south?
To the south.
So before we start selling off that property, can we see the redevelopment contract and can we make sure that that's all good to go?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, we still have, and Judy maybe has a better idea than I do right now because I haven't checked in with her about it, but I know that we're working on the subdivision piece of that too.
Okay.
And so that's still a work in progress. We're not quite there, but those are all of the pieces that are kind of coming together to be able to make this work.
Okay.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 5, please. Item number 5 is passed. Item number 6. First reading and action on ordinance number 4216 to amend ordinance number 4208 relating to paving district number 842. Lane?
Ordinance number 4216, an ordinance of the City of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, to amend ordinance number 4208 related to the creation of paving district number 842 on Francis Street from the east side of the intersection of Bryan Avenue and Francis Street, thence east to Devco Avenue, approximately 3,100 feet in the City of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 4216 to amend ordinance number 4208 relating to paving district number 842 on first reading.
Second.
Motion by Bowles, second by Dye.
Yes, this, I think, had we tabled it from the last meeting? Or withdrew it?
We withdrew it.
Withdrew it from the agenda from the last meeting. But in consultation with Brent, we did make some revisions to what had been originally proposed by the developer as an amendment to this district. So if anybody had been following, I don't know that I really spelled it out, but based upon a request from the redeveloper, all that is in front of the council is to consider amending section 3 of the original ordinance, which has to do with, I guess, spelling out the lots that would be ultimately assessed for the cost of the paving district. So previously, we had considered having an additional amendment which would change the parameters of the paving district, but Brent didn't feel as comfortable with that, and so we took that out. And so now all that's being considered is just amending section 3 of the original district, which would, when it comes time to assess the costs for the paving district, would assess them in proportion to the benefits received to this Fritz Farms first subdivision, lot 1, block 1, and then Fritz Farm first subdivision, lot 2, block 2.
Thank you. So we're talking about District B, as looking on the map here. Basically the piece from Bryan to Devco, or just south of the post office. And what's being proposed here, if you can see the lot lines that's in this picture here, we're attributing, or what this proposes is attributing the costs or the assessment to the two larger lots in that area. One of those, the lot that is to the west, is if you've driven by this area, you'll notice there's quite a bit of building and construction going on that lot right now today. The value based on the building permits of that is just a hair under 16 million, I believe, somewhere in that vicinity on that lost lot on the west right now. I think that's kind of the relevant facts. Anybody have questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Duff.
the building that's going up right now, is that the one that would be on the lot to the west of McCabe there then? Is
That's
that
correct, yes.
That's where,
Yep, yep.
and that one would absorb some of the assessments for this street?
Yes.
Building there and the one that's going up beside it?
So let's talk about the process. So the council will decide whether the council is going to decide on this item tonight.
Yeah.
And then at some point in the future, when all the invoices are in for the street that is on the section of B, which is likely to be, Brent and I were theorizing, in the July timeframe. Chances are the second meeting in July or the first meeting in August, the council will sit as the Board of Equalization. And at that time, we will assign the costs, or the assessment, I should say, to the lots. And that will be in the, is it 1.7 vicinity? 1.7 million, okay? Our thought today, based on the fact that the more valuable piece of land is the one that's being constructed on today, is that we would attribute 80% of that to that lot. Now, if between now and July, something equally as shiny and new pops up on the other side, well, then we would recommend a different percentage.
Okay.
But that's what we're going to recommend if things stay roughly the same as they are today.
Okay, thank you.
Nick?
So what is the advantage of doing that process versus a normal process?
What do you mean a normal process?
Well, so this is going farther back, so it's not the actual frontage, it's going a lot back? Is that what it's doing?
No, those lots abut the street.
I guess I'm just trying to figure out what the whole purpose of this amendment is.
Well, when the city council had originally passed this, we had attributed by square foot the cost of that street to that entire piece of property that is north of essentially the green line or District B.
Okay.
Okay. And what we're doing at the request of the developer, as Bill mentioned, is bringing that down to the pieces of the property that are going to be developed first. And those pieces of property will take the assessment.
So then the other pieces of the property is not going to have any assessments.
Correct.
So what is the advantage of doing that process, of getting the whole, I guess I'm just confused on how.
It's basically
what's the long game?
It's just an administrative simplification. Those developers agreed to pay for the street. And so it's just a way of assigning the most valuable piece first. It actually puts the city in the best situation from if something goes horribly wrong and this doesn't work, we have first lien on the most valuable piece of property. So think of it as a bit of an insurance policy. We're not going to think that way. They're going to have a wonderful development. The whole thing will be filled in the next 10 years, right, guys? But just in case something doesn't go right, we have the most valuable piece of property with the first lien on it.
Did this come up in prior discussions with more land involved with it? Or is this the first time that this has come up? Because I feel like there might have been something prior that we had talked about that had like 80 acres tied to it versus 29.
I don't recall.
Of section C, that's
Okay.
7 acres for section C down in the next section.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why we have this map, is because we have to rehash these every time.
I've got like 20 of these and I still get confused, so.
I think also to your point, Councilman McNew, we originally did bring this proposed ordinance in front of council in the fall. And then we pulled it back and we waited. So this isn't the first time that we've talked about this 4216. The original time it was discussed was back in the fall.
Other questions or comments? Go ahead.
I think it's a really good plan, especially with the percentages. I just want to ascertain that Mr. Glade is aware of this too, and I'm sure he is. I've just never seen him.
So. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We spoke briefly this afternoon.
Okay.
Rod?
The other thing we need to keep in mind is the developer's gonna take care of the whole cost of doing McCabe Avenue on over to meet up with that.
That
With
is
the
correct.
curb and gutters and sidewalks as it should be for city, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
As well as in that little development over in the corner, they're taking care of all that paving too.
Different developer, but yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So, yep, that answers my question.
Okay. Other question, Nick, or excuse me, Ed. Sorry, I looked at Nick and said,
Got a compliment. I did. Must be the beard.
You're just too quick. I presume that that agreement is written down somewhere that the developer's gonna do McCabe and the corner one that you were talking about, Ron.
yeah, we had Bill look those up. Yeah.
Okay.
It's all part of the redevelopment contract.
No question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor? Good. I still have a little bit of a lack of clarity on where we started. I know I asked to table this back in July, and I understand the proposed district, but what was the exact original district? I also thought it was 80 acres, but I can't reconcile the 80 acres.
I think at one time there was some discussion about the land to the south, if I remember right. But
What-
I don't remember how far that went to the south, Ty.
Other than because the developers want us to, why aren't we assessing the frontage to the south? Or what's the reason for that? If somebody can
Austin, you
walk
want to
me through
remind
that.
us of the history, please?
Yeah.
So the way the original ordinance was wrote, it was anywhere along the north and south frontage along that road. And Brent can speak on the technical element of this, but I remember going back and when we did the calculation on the ordinance, with my co-developers, within our redevelopment agreement between both companies, they were paying for that road to go in. When we did the calculations, the way the ordinance was originally wrote, my company was absorbing 75% of the responsibility of that payment. So my recollection is back last fall, there wasn't enough development done on the multifamily land to offset the dollar amount of the paving district. So we've waited for more development to happen. So there was the right balance, I think, per your recommendation, Ty. So it's pulling the responsibility off of us. And we're taking the responsibility of the additional ordinances, and then my co-developer will be responsible based upon how the agreement's been laid with the split in the redevelopment plan.
Yeah, and I guess my own view or philosophy on this is that if we can keep these districts in a safe manner to the taxpayer, if we can accommodate, we started with this being a master development, master agreement. They've opted to segregate that privately, which is great. I mean, the more investors in our community, I think that's wonderful. But so from my standpoint, if we accommodate the shrinking of these districts, we just need to do it in a secure manner. So what I was concerned about was the east lot as proposed, potentially being for lack of a better term, kind of an orphan area for assessments if it was overassessed versus its value. But if we can do the 80-20, then that cleans up my concern on that. Bill, is there any equalization issues with that, or French, or do we have the latitude to equalize it in that manner?
Yeah, my reading of the statute, because I've got all my notes here.
Yeah.
So I went back and reviewed it this afternoon. My reading of the statute is that it falls upon the city council sitting as the Board of Equalization to determine that percentage, or to determine the assessment upon the lots and lands in the district which are specially benefited thereby in proportion to such benefits. Okay, so my reading of that is that it gives the Board of Equalization some latitude to be able to assign a greater proportion of the benefits to different lots. Just like the statute allows the Board of Equalization and the City Council to come up with the interest rate that will be charged for the assessments and those types of things. So you have some latitude when it comes to that.
Well, it kind of makes some sense because, and I don't know what their intent was when they wrote the law, but the apartment buildings need that road. The lot next to it doesn't really need it today. Now that could change though by the time we equalize it. And so, mayors, what you're saying is that if there was material construction at the time of equalization on the right lot, we could reconsider that 80-20 then?
That is correct, yes. That's going to be our recommendation to council decide.
No, thank you.
Other question, Ed?
So, Mr. Mayor, in relationship to the Board of Equalization, apparently there's no proposed construction on the south side. But that property is gonna gain some value because of the street. Can we legitimately offload the whole cost of the street onto the north side and still be within the parameters of the Board of Equalization?
According to the attorneys, Reed, yes.
Yeah, and that's where, you know, also, you also still have to consider the redevelopment contract, and as Austin stated, how those rights have been assigned to other entities, and so there's the contractual obligations that come into play there as well. But from my perspective, as far as assigning the benefits, we have some discretion when it comes to that, and certainly when, you know, July, August rolls around and we get to that point, assuming I'm still here, then I will be making a recommendation that we make a special finding as to how each lot is specifically benefited.
Mr. Mayor, may I have one
Yes,
last
go
thing?
ahead.
This is a first reading. I know that this idea of the amended redevelopment agreement keeps popping up. If the council chooses to pass this tonight, to me, it'd be really nice before third reading on this if we would have that opportunity for that to be finalized, because that's an item that keeps coming up with this.
I think Mr. Bacon and I established an appropriate timeline today.
Hopefully I just didn't lengthen it.
I could add to that.
Go ahead.
That would be available for the council to read.
Of course. It'll be one of the materials because the council have to agree to it, so.
Yeah, I think if my memory serves correctly, that particular, any change to that would involve the city as well. So it's what Mr. Bacon refers to as a three-legged stool, where it's the redeveloper, the city, and the CRA. They're all parties to it.
Okay. Calling the question on item number 6, please. Item number 6 is passed. Thank you, Austin, for your recollections. Number 7, adopt the resolution approving claim and authorizing the issuance of one warrant to Midlands Contracting, Inc. in the amount of $116,754.10 to pay approved claim and referring to and incorporating the terms and conditions of ordinance number 3874 relating to warrant financing.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the resolution authorizing the issuance of one warrant as presented in the materials.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by McNew. Any discussion on item number 7? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 7, please. Item number 7. Item number 7 is passed. Excuse me. Item number 8 begins with a public hearing, and we'll open the public hearing to consider action on the recommendation by the North Platte Planning Commission to adopt ordinance number 4245, vacating a portion of an alley located between 621 and 701 East 12th Street. Going to open the public hearing, and I'm going to ask Judy to talk about this briefly so we're all on the same page as we start.
Good evening, Judy Clark. You should have all received a copy of the review comments, and then attached to that, there should be a map that kind of shows you the request for the vacated alley. And this was requested by the property owner at 621. And he just was requested to vacate the alley. There are no utilities in that alley. It's not used for trash collection. So he had just requested that the city vacate that. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
In case you're wondering about the position of it, if you are driving north on Poplar Street and you crossed 12th Street, you would drive into this alley. So it's right in that area. Okay, thanks, Judy. Public hearing is open. If anyone would like to make a comment on this issue, please approach the microphone, tell us who you are, where you live, and we'll be happy to hear your comments. Would
I move
appear-
we close public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Bowles, second by Reeker to close the public hearing. Calling the question on closing the public hearing, please. Public hearing is now closed. Council will now consider item number 8, which is consider action on the recommendation by the North Platte Planning Commission to adopt ordinance number 4245, vacating a portion of an alley located between 621 and 701 East 12th Street. Laying the ordinance, please.
Ordinance number 4245, an ordinance of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, vacating an alley described as a portion of the alley located between Lot 32, Hastings Addition to North Platte, and Lot 1, Jurgensen Subdivision, North Platte, Lincoln County, providing for the reservation of title and of said vacated alley by the city of North Platte, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 4245, vacating a portion of an alley located between 621 and 701 East 12th Street on first reading.
Second.
Motion by Bowles, second by Dye. We have any discussion on item number 8? Ed?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. So assuming we approve this, who ends up with that property?
Bill, you want to take that one? It's a little convoluted to start out with. So.
Yeah, this one is a little bit different in that, as Lane read the ordinance, you might have picked out that the city is retaining title to the property. And so our intent there, typically when you vacate an alley like this, half of each side of it reverts to the neighboring property owner. One of the property owners next to this particular alley has no interest in gaining more property. And so our intent is to retain ownership because the statute allows us to then transfer the entire vacated alley to someone else, which what we would plan to do once the alley's vacated is we'll bring it back to city council to consider selling it to the neighboring property owner who's requested that it be vacated. So it's a little bit of a process, but that's why we're asking that title be retained by the city as part of the vacation.
Thank you. This gentleman contacted me probably 4 years ago with concerns about this alley. And as I recall, it was kind of a racetrack. And he wasn't happy. And I'm really glad that we're doing something about it. It's a minor thing for us, but I think it was a major thing for him. And so I'm glad we're doing this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Other questions or comments?
I have one.
Go ahead, Nick.
Thank you. Are we sure this isn't part of a road or anything like that? It's an actual alley?
We're quite certain.
Okay. It was just weird because Google Maps took me right down that alley, and normally they don't take you down alleys. And I was like,
Well, consider the log. Never mind. But
Yeah.
how Google Maps works is not how your brain works. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess my only concern is how, normally when we vacated alleys in the past, it was just a square block that really didn't mean a whole lot. This one connects a lot of different alleys, especially over in that area. Was there any concerns or anything from any neighbors? Nobody showed up here, but I don't know if, there's more that connects to this alley than just the property that abuts it, I guess is my point. So that's my only concern.
As far as the city's concerned, as we noted, there is no utilities in that section of the alley. The garbage trucks do not use that. They go east and west, and then just to the north. They don't come down to the south in there. We talked with the utilities. We talked with city employees as far as that piece, and that's not a piece that affects city business, and we haven't had any neighbors in the area that have made any requests one way or another.
Okay.
But that is one of the reasons we read an ordinance multiple times.
Yeah.
So that if someone hears about this in the press or from the meeting and they have the
Yeah.
opportunity to come and tell us what their thoughts are.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that I haven't heard anything about it. But no, I mean, that was my only concern is it's not just vacating an alley, it's vacating a connecting alley to multiple entrances and exits. So that was my only concern.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 8, please. Item number 8 is passed. Item number 9, another public hearing to approve the agreement for sale of real estate at 908 East 14th Street with Matthew and Jamie James and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents. Opening the public hearing on this issue. If you have any concerns, please approach the microphone. Let us know your thoughts. Bill, this is one of our properties that we've been talking about, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So how long has this one been on the property resolution list?
As of the last update to the property resolution list that I had, it was over 600 days on the property resolution list.
Okay, thank you. So public hearing is open. If anyone would like to make a comment on this, please approach the microphone. Tell us what your thoughts are. I think we have a fairly dedicated public tonight, so I don't think they're going to say much about this one.
I move to close public hearing.
Second.
By Bowles, second by Reeker to close the public hearing. Calling the question on closing the public hearing, please. Public hearing is closed. Council will now consider approve the agreement for sale of real estate at 908 East 14th Street with Matthew and Jamie James and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the agreement for sale of real estate with Matthew and Jamie James and authorize the mayor to sign necessary documents.
Second.
Motion by Lucas, second by Flanders. We have discussion on item number 9. Ed?
Mr. Mayor, how much money's left in that fund?
Kevin?
Assuming council approves this tonight, we would have approximately 708,000. However, that does not take in consideration some demos and cleanups that still have to be taking place. The ones that you've previously approved.
Thank you, Kevin.
So the cost that we purchase these properties for is not necessarily the total amount that we can assess to this fund for repayment to the city. Well, in other words, if we've got cleanup costs, if I understand Kevin correctly, that's added to the purchase price.
Yes, and the grant pays for that.
Right.
Yep.
Correct.
And so, okay. How
So
many-
what will happen is after October of this year, we will auction these properties as clear. The titles will be cleared, the sites will be cleared, and whatever revenue we make from that, we make.
So will these be auctioned off as a group, or will they be individual properties? or-
They'll be individual properties auction. Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 9, please. Item number 9 is passed. Item number 10, another public hearing, first reading and action on the recommendation of the North Platte Historic Preservation Commission and Planning Commission to adopt ordinance number 4244, amending the North Platte City Code of Ordinances, section 3307, Historic Preservation Commission. Lane, I'm going to ask you to read this one now. So.
Ordinance number 4244, an ordinance of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, amending section 33.07 of the municipal code of the city related to the Historic Preservation Commission, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication thereof.
Mayor, I move to waive the remaining required readings on.
Ed, we're in the public hearing, so
Sorry.
thank you. I appreciate your opportunity to waive and just hold off on that for a second. Okay. We have a public hearing on this item. If anyone would like to make a comment, please approach the microphone. Tell us what your thoughts are. Pete?
I move to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion by Bowles, second by Dye to close public hearing. Calling the question on closing a public hearing. Public hearing is now closed. Thank you, Pete. You made the last two, so I figured we'd just be consistent.
Trifecta.
Okay, council will now consider first reading and action on the recommendation of the North Platte Historic Preservation Commission and Planning Commission to adopt ordinance number 4244, amending the North Platte City Code of Ordinances, Section 3307, Historic Preservation Commission.
Mr. Mayor, I move to waive the remaining required readings on ordinance number 4244 and move to adopt ordinance 4244 to amend 33.07 of the municipal code of the city of North Platte. Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Nisley. Judy, you want to give us a quick blurb on what this is about? Or you want Kevin to do it? Okay. Kevin, I guess, has been voluntold, so thank you, Kevin.
No, so this is just some minor changes. The original ordinance was passed in 2007. It's basically just changing some administrative features in there to match up with city processes. For example, setting city treasurer taking care of the finances, city staff taking care of the secretary roles. So basically just sets two officers, a chair and a vice chair for the board, and a couple other minor things in reporting. Really doesn't change any overall processes. It'll just line up with public hearing notices and those types of things. So it matches up with all other boards of the city.
Thank you, sir.
And it's been discussed numerous times at Historic Preservation Commission and also went for public hearing with no comments last in February.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, calling the question on item number 10, please. Item number 10 is passed in one reading. Item number 11, approve the claims.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the claims.
Second.
Motion by Reeker, second by Vols to approve the claims.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to abstain from paying the claims.
The record show Mr. Dye has abstained from the claims vote. Calling the question on number 11, please. Number 11 is passed.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to move to go into executive session to talk about real estate transactions.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Flanders, second by McNew, to enter executive session, respect the city's rights regarding property negotiations. Yes, we do. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Please take a cupcake or several. Hand them out. Judy, force them to take them. Mr. Dye and Mr. Nisley, would you vote, please? Jim and Rod, would you vote, please? Vote, please. Vote, please. I have no idea. We don't know.